Hello, Ignite Portlanders. I'm Brad Fortier, and I'm going to be talking about improvised theater and the human brain. So after a few years of doing improvised theater, I noticed two big things. Number one was that when we were kind of in the best of shows, we would hit this point where all of a sudden we would feel this incredible sense of union, some sort of group mind that would come out of it. And while I was teaching classes, students would come up to me and be like, man, doing this is it's like therapy. So as an anthropologist, I was like, all right, what is going on with the process of improvisation that is leading to these amazing mental states for performers and this sense of therapy for students? And in the research, I came across this book called From Ritual to Theater, The Human Seriousness of Play. And the author, Victor Turner, he talks about this deep sense of union and shared identity and oneness that comes out of ritual practice, religion, basically. And there's other scholars who call it group flow and absolute unitary being. And honestly, all of these terms pretty much mirror what performers had for years been calling group mind. It's that point in a show where it feels like we're sharing a brain. Now, ritual is really enacted to basically solve a problem that's presented by and to the verbal analytic portion of our brains. And like many human rituals, improvised theater has elements of narrative. It has dramatic rhythm and repetition. It also seeks to identify individuals as part of a larger group or cause. For instance, when you go to a football game, it basically either stresses or affirms whether you're still a duck or a beaver, Or when you go and see West Side Story, it reaffirms or stresses whether we aspire to basically love or loyalty. And honestly, all of this stuff, that sense of oneness underpins the myths that are in all human religions. So I looked into this, and there's 4 neuroscientists who have basically looked into what happens in our brains when we hit that point of ritual and play, where we feel that oneness. And they point to the behavior of the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is really deeply integrated with our brain's pleasure center through the hypothalamus. Now, in ritual practice and in play, our brain activity ramps up a whole lot. And the hippocampus is essentially like a traffic cop that controls neural flow in the brain. Now, in the heat of ritual play, our right hemisphere actually begins to become more dominant in cognition and can sync up with our left hemisphere. And this kind of thing happens to us when we dream, when we meditate, and when we have an orgasm. Ooh. Nice. Give me your O face. So what's going on, though, is that the hippocampus basically cuts off neural flow to what's known as the orientation association area of our brain. That's the structure that basically manages the boundaries of the self and orients that self in space. So when things are getting too busy, the hypothalamus says, all right, hold it up. Nobody to the self anymore. We got other things to do. And so improvised theater, my assertion is improvised theater is a ritual of play. Wow, am I going that fast? It's a ritual of play. And it's a way for us to basically examine life as it is now, but it's also a way to explore what could be. It's an amazing system. It's a laboratory. Now, here's the other thing, is that play and religion are actually kind of rivals for being able to elicit this sense of unity and oneness in us. Improvised theater is a way for us to basically also experiment with our social niceties. It's a way that we can kind of explore and solve problems in life with really, basically with low impact. It's a low impact experiment. Improvisation and improvised theater is essentially another way to access our humanity. And honestly, like this feeling of oneness and unity that comes up in us, I think is evidence that our brains are geared to reward us with feelings of pleasure, belonging, and comfort when we actually really invest in focused play or religious ritual. And I think there's a lot there, a lot to chew on. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And I ran through my talk really fast. So thank you very much. I'm Brad Fortier.
I was running them like manually for half of it. So,